And what we are seeing in Russia particularly is that as people become more prosperous, they are beginning to demand these other things as well. Second theme we considered was democracy and revolution, particularly in the Arab world. This was an excellent discussion. It is unlike most discussions you would see in the United Kingdom and the United States. What is the main discussion in the United Kingdom and the United States now after these Arab revolutions, spring or autumn revolutions? The main question under discussion is whether the new orders in this political orders in this part of the world will be Islamic or secular. This is a construction invented in the West. What we can be confident about is that the Islamic world will remain Islamic, but we can also be confident that this fact in itself tells us very little. It does not tell us whether, after these events, old patterns of dominance, old structures of power, old patron-client relationships will be restored under new facades. It doesn't tell us whether the confusion and disappointments will lead to fresh revolutions or worse, less structured and more anarchic forms of conflict. It doesn't tell us whether what we call new democracies will in fact turn out just to be majoritarian dictatorships. And it doesn't tell us whether in some of these countries there is a chance that minorities will not only be able to secure protection, but representation and incorporation in new political orders. With all these uncertainties, I believe that the West, whatever its record before, was entirely right to work within the grain of these changes and support them. And in doing so, I believe we have not only made a political choice, we have made a historical choice. And I believe if it's not clear now, it will become more clear in future that Russia and China have made the wrong historical choice. Third, I have only two comments to make about the very important and complex issues of Black Sea region security before concluding. The first is that after the 7th of May, Russia will return to the leadership, the de jure leadership, of a president who not only has the desire but the will to resolve the most outstanding issues in Russia's neighborhood, beginning with Ukraine, and not excluding Georgia and Moldova. And if things are bad now, I think it is only prudent to predict they will get tough. And not to be thinking about how to prepare oneself now means one might not have the luxury of thinking at all, but just reacting more chaotically than cohesively.
President Kuchma said in his first term, and it is a cardinal definition of the security challenge facing Ukraine. The critical issue is how to pull people together at the key moment. And the culture of security and of security institutions capable of doing that has only intermittently been addressed, whoever has been in power in Ukraine. My second comment concerns NATO. The lesser worry I have is that it is
unfortunate, it's been fateful, very unfortunate, that NATO's assumption of a global role coincided with the contraction of its resources. And that is a reality NATO faces today. But the bigger problem is that this assumption of a global role has taken NATO away from its core tasks, not only from its core tasks, which are European security, of course, but from its roots, its korni. And when you separate yourself from your historical roots, you also separate yourself from your moral roots. And that, I'm afraid, is what NATO has done to a considerable degree. So I would suggest the key issue to be faced by NATO, the key question to be asked today is, does NATO wish to remain relevant to European security? And if it does wish to remain relevant to European security, then how can it do so where it is no longer, where enlargement is no longer a realistic answer to security problems? So let me now conclude at a personal level by mentioning the love that dare not speak its name. And that love is Ukraine. And forgive me if I begin at a conference on democracy by making a comment which is not only counterintuitive, but perhaps unwelcome. Ukraine has a right to remain an independent state, whether it is democratic or not. But my second point is this: no country, Ukraine or any other, has a right to join the European Union, to have an association agreement with it, or to be close to it. That right depends upon other sovereign states and sovereign bodies. And in practice, it will depend upon Ukraine's ability to persuade those states that it shares their interest and values, not just rhetorically or by imitation, but by conviction and in practice. And every government of the EU understands that. The last point I would make has, fortunately, already been made by Sergei Konoplyov. The Orange Revolution damaged the cause of democracy in Ukraine, not the Orange Revolution, the aftermath. Why? It produced a political order which, in this part of the world, we saw centuries ago during the period of the Polish Liberum Veto, where a great power in Europe disappeared in a matter of a few decades. And also, a great state in Europe, France, disappeared at the height of the Third Republic. And what defined these political orders? These were political orders in which it was the easiest thing in the world to obstruct government, but almost impossible to govern. And Sergei Konoplyov is absolutely right. If democracy will lose its legitimacy if it is not accompanied by good governance. If democracy is to have a future, it must be accompanied by good governance in both parts of Europe. And I would simply end by restating that in the future work of Open Ukraine, I hope we will spend as much time discussing good governance as we do in discussing democracy. Thank you very much. The best of luck to all of you.